Welcome back to Switch to Linux. It has been a good long week since I've been here, and we are back. We are recording temporarily with a blue snowball ice as my microphone stand was left at camp. So I'll be making arrangements to get that back. But it did give me the opportunity to pick up this extra microphone, which I kind of needed for the video today, as we want to update our tutorials on Audacity. We are recording this on Arch because I wanted to make certain that I have the latest version of Audacity. Now, before we get into it, we are going to start out by talking about the little issue that they had. They were purchased by Muse Music, and then Muse is like, hey, let's go ahead and cram data analytics in here. And obviously that was not a good plan for people into the open source system, caused a little bit of a ruckus, and some versions of Audacity did not get updated into some systems because of that. Effectively, what they were trying to do is they wanted to cram Google Analytics and Yandex, which is more of a Russian version of Google Analytics, into it to collect data. Of course, they're like, you could turn this off, but it ended up causing a huge issue. The problem is that everybody remembered that news. Some people soured on Audacity, and they completely forgot that they actually, in very short order, reversed policy because they realized, oh, this really good system we just paid a lot of money for is going to completely die if we keep doing stupid things. And so that is what ended up happening. So there is no issue with data collection inside of Audacity. That happened when they threw this in early on, and within a couple of weeks, they're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get rid of that nonsense. They realized that people were not going to deal with that. People were already starting to fork Audacity, and that would cause serious problems because the open source community is going to go with the open source solution, not the stuff crammed with Google Analytics. I'm talking to you, some other applications that are out there. All right, but what we wanted to talk about is we wanted to get into looking at Audacity. This is the latest version, 3.6. You can look at the changelog. They have updated the FFmpeg backend and a number of other features. This does actually carry with it a few different slight adjustments that, even for me, a seasoned Audacity user, were a little bit more difficult to work with initially, but it's not a huge problem. Mostly it's just differences in how the fields are laid out. Each individual audio track is its own individual manipulatable group, which actually is beneficial in some ways, but I did actually see a couple of very minor bugs occasionally introduced. So as we open up Audacity, of course, we have our main toolbar up here, and we have other options. We can look at zooming in, zooming out. You can look at your timelines and extra menu items and things like that. Now, what we can see is under our audio setup, you can choose where you want your various playback and recording devices. So if I look at my recording devices here, there's a lot of things. This USB audio codec is my typical microphone. We don't see on here my snowball that we are recording this with OBS because OBS has captured it and it is not showing up as a system. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one here, and then clicking this button here, Enable Silent Mode, will show us exactly what the mic is picking up. So you can see there I'm actually tapping on the microphone. So you can't really see or hear anything in there, but if I just pick up the microphone and talk into it, you'll see that that will peak itself out. As far as everything else, it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a selection tool, we have a draw tool, we have an envelope tool, we have a multi-tool allowing us to do a number of different things as we are working on manipulations. Now, as far as your basic layout, we talked about selecting your various sources. Where does it play out on? We're just keeping that at default there. Now, this Arch system is using Pipewire. I'm not sure if that's why we have a lot of different things in this playback list. I have no idea. But one of the applications required me to switch over to Pipewire. So you can see you can select stereo or mono, and we can rescan audio devices, and we can pull up our full audio settings as well. You can see what various devices are. I'm going to leave all of those unchanged. Now, as far as doing manipulations, we have filters and we have various analysis tools. We're going to have a look at those. First, we're going to go ahead and hit our record button. And you can see if I hit record button, I'm going to pick up the microphone that Audacity is actually using. This is my regular professional mic. And you can see that it is pulling everything in. So when we stop it, you'll see that we have this as a separate thing. This is actually a new function. And of course, you can throw it off of the negative timeline, which a little harder to do on the older versions of Audacity. I don't actually like some of the new layout that they did. Let's go ahead and add another track here. So here is the second track, and you'll see that the second track is pulling in as a full separate track. And so now I can move and manipulate these guys around. I did not notice if it's going to cause any noticeable change. I might try and record an audiobook with this particular one and see if this works out just as well. So let's go ahead and hit some playback here. And you can see if I hit record button, I'm going to pick up the microphone that Audacity is actually using. So we can see that we have our audio tracks. If I want to just delete this part over here, and you can see that, let's go ahead and just highlight the part we don't want. And then we can just push the delete. And we can close this back in. I believe that one of these tools might actually allow us to just automatically, if we delete something, it'll automatically pull everything else in. That is actually the older function of Audacity. So this might actually drive me crazy working with it as an audiobook editor, because if I have to constantly be pulling things back, it's going to be really annoying. So you can trim outside, you can silence the inside. They did make a number of different changes in this versus the version of Audacity that I have been working with for a regular basis. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some various effects. So under our effects, we have a variety of different things plugged in. We have limited, now loudness normalize is the RMS normalize. If you've needed that in the past, then that's what that is there. We can do various fading in, fading out. We can do studio fades. Here's EQ, so you can run graphic EQ. And then there's a number of presets in here. So if you want to do a bass boost, if you want to do a bass cut, if you want to do is it RIAA? Oh, not sure exactly what that one's going to do. You can actually sample these. And you can see if I hit... Yeah, that sounds horrible. And you can see if I hit... And let's try the bass boost. And you can see if I hit... So you can kind of see that there's a variety of things that are already set in there. And you can, of course, make any of these manipulations directly if you know what these various guys are doing. And you can see if I hit... All right. So under other effects in here, we have delays, we have echoes, reverbs. So now note that it's only going to apply that to the part that is selected. Let's go and apply a reverb to this. And you can see if I hit record button, I'm going to pick up the... You'll notice that the reverb is only under the part that we had. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. And you can see if I hit record... So we also have the ability to input various effects. So there's generate, we can generate chirps, tones, noises, silence. There's a variety of different things that we can do just set in. So as far as manipulation and edits, again, just highlighting things. There will be a setting in here somewhere that allows us to automatically clip things down. I just don't remember exactly which tool or setting it is. That was the older version of Audacity. You click this out and it just automatically throws everything else back down where it was without having to re-slide things around like that. All right, now let's talk briefly about your plugins and things. So there are all of these are various plugins. They're already set in here. If you find that some of them are particularly horrible, you can actually go in and disable them if you want. Here's your echoes. There's various tones, all these different things. You can see what the types are. There's native Audacity. There's various different types we see here. Let's hit all, and then under categories, we have generation tones. Here's your various effects, and we have analyzers, and we have tools. So this allows us to add a variety of different plugins under different types. Now, let's talk briefly about where you might use plugins, and we'll talk briefly about macros and things. I'm going to use the real-world example of working on audiobooks, which would also apply to podcasting. I use the same exact setups for podcasting and for your audiobooks, because it's a very good industry standard system. This is the ACX, which is one of the major submission guidelines for audiobooks. This one puts it in Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. And if you look at their file requirements, 8, 9, 10, 11 are the technical requirements that you might need to look at. So you have to have a file measuring between -23 and -18 dB RMS. You have to have peak values no higher than -3. You have to have a noise floor no higher than -60. And then each file must be 192 kilobit per second or higher at 44.1 kilohertz MP3 constant bit rate. So those are all important things that you need to know. Now, Audacity does have all of these plugged in by default. You used to have to download a separate RMS normalize, but that is now built in with the loudness normalize function. But you do want to make sure that everything is working without having to double check everything individually. And so there is actually a plugin called ACX Check. So we can add this one into our Audacity, and it gives us a tool to check our ACX requirements. So now they do have an old link here, which goes to the old wiki page. The wiki page tells you that that's missing, and it does tell you the ACX check is over here at the plugins.audacityteam.org. So this is the ACX check, and if you hit this, download it. I've actually already downloaded it. This is the second time I'm recording this video. So under my downloads here, you'll see that I've already downloaded my plugin here. It's a .ny file. And so what we're going to do is head into Audacity. First thing, though, we're going to do, let's go ahead and save this, because we're going to have to shut this down and restart it anytime we add something. Let's go ahead and save this file. So we're going to save project. This is going to save it as basically like the Audacity file. We're going to put it on the desktop. Call it Test Audacity. And we're going to save that. Now we're going to go under your Plugins Manager again. Now you notice that Plugins Manager is under all of these 4 menu items. It's going to default to putting that under the category that you pulled the menu down from. You can just select this. And what we might want to do is we want to install ones. Under your Tools, you need to go down to your Plugin Installer. We're going to browse for the file that we're looking for. So down to our downloads. You'll see it pulls up everything that's relevant here. So here's your ACX check. And then allow overwriting. If there's already something of this file name, do you want to allow it to overwrite or not? You can choose yes or no. I'm going to go ahead and allow just in case. Now it tells us success, and the file is written here, which is going to be in my local folder, .local, .share, .audacity, and plugins. So you can actually find it there in that folder if you're looking for it later. Now, it may not actually show up until we actually reboot the system, so you notice it's not there. So we are going to have to close Audacity down and restart Audacity. Now, if we have a look over here, you'll see the ACX check is up here. Let's go ahead and open up our file that we just had. And this is the file we had just recorded. So we're going to select all of it and hit your Analyze and hit ACX check, and you'll see that it fails. This is too high. You'll see that the peaks are too high. RMS, we have too loud. Noise floor is also a fail. Must be below -60. So what we're going to do is, rather than going through and hitting all the individual tools, we can create a macro for this. So under your macro manager, this allows you to create different tools. I'm going to do one called ACX. And this is what I've done on all of my other systems. Now what we're going to do is we are going to insert, and ACX asks for a couple of things. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to do I think it's going to be an EQ. I might have to look in the menus again to remember exactly what it is off the top. Let's just say OK. And it's going to be under our EQs and filters. It's filter curve EQ. And you want your preview settings of your low voice roll off for speech. All right, so we're looking for filter curve EQ. So that's the one. Let's delete that. Insert. We want to do, let's look at filter curve EQ. We're going to add that. Now what we're going to do is if I double click this, and this is actually new in the newer Audacity. This is one of the major positive changes. Double click this, I can go ahead and set exactly what I want. So let's hit low roll off for speech, apply. And now this is going to apply not just the filter curve EQ, but specifically the filter curve EQ with the low roll off for speech. So that's what it's going to do. The next thing we want to do is we're going to insert the loudness normalize. So let's go ahead and type in this loudness normalization, click OK. Now this one should be the second one we do, so we're going to move it down, double click it, and then let's keep it at the -23. We might need to tweak this number later, but let's go ahead and keep it there. And we're going to add one more, and the one more is going to be a limiter. So picking our limiter and double clicking our limiter, we want this at -3. And of course, move your limiter down as well. So we're going to hit our, there should be a save button. There it is. So now, remember, let's go ahead and run our ACX check. Remember that this fails. So now under our macros menu, we can hit ACX. It's going to run everything through all of those. And now let's see what the ACX check does. So this is too low. This is slightly too quiet and slightly too low. This might just be I didn't have the microphone settings set up well. You want to kind of do some basic tests before you start. But okay, let's go ahead and make some slight adjustments to our macro. So let's go ahead into our macro, hit our macro manager. Let me double check too. Was this the correct? Yeah, the limiter should be the, yeah, all right. So let's go ahead and first double check our limiter because for whatever reason it gave us a limiter that was off. That is totally unexpected to me. So let's go ahead and let's do 3.5. The one we might have to adjust by just doing a different record sample is that noise floor. If that's too quiet of a noise floor, that might actually be part of the issue here. Let's go ahead and change this to 22.5. And filter curve EQ should be fine. So let's go ahead and give this another try. And run our analysis now. Okay, so now our RMS passes. Notice that our noise floor is still too noisy. I'm not sure why that is. That's very odd. That might just be, let me just go ahead and look at my microphone settings real quick, and then we will test that one more time. So let's look at our recording device, codec. Let me tweak this up, and let me actually pull this in and do a quick test over here. Okay, audio check. So, see how I'm really peaking there? That's probably part of our issue. So let me turn this down. I'm just going to turn this down, not in software. I'm doing this actually in hardware. So I'm adjusting the actual peaks on my USB interface. And this is really what you want to do before you start recording anything, is double check these. I mean, we were clearly peaking when we did that last time. So let's go ahead and try this. All right, so I've went ahead and adjusted things. We're getting a little bit of peaking here, so let's go ahead and hit the record. All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and get a test. Okay, this is better audio that I would like to see. So let's go ahead and double check how this does. I want to get myself probably about a 20-second audio clip sample. We are seeing that our peaks are a little bit too high automatically. Flourish might be good, and RMS normalize probably not. All right, so let's go ahead and have a brief look at our analysis already. See, our peak level's too high. RMS level is too loud. Noise floor is too low. All right, so first let's go ahead and test the macro that we've done. See what this is doing. All right, now running our analysis. Our RMS is a little bit too quiet. It's at minus 2348. Everything else is passing. So let's go ahead and undo this. And we're going to go back into our macro manager. Look at our loudness normalize. And not sure why that did that, but let's go ahead and tweak it down one section. Hit save. And now let's apply it. And now we have our system passes. So if you do get that point where something doesn't pass right, go back into that macro and just slightly tweak those up or down just a little bit until you get it exactly the way that you want. Let's have a listen to how this sounds now. All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and get a test. Okay, this is better audio than... All right, so there we have worked with the plugins, the macros, and things. So let's go ahead and talk about exporting file formats and qualities. That was one of the things that they asked for specifically. That's the one we haven't addressed yet, is this point 11, is how to make sure your outputs are saved. Now, if you hit Save Project, this saves it in the Audacity format. So we'll call this Test Audacity 2, and you'll see that that is format specifically for Audacity. Now, if you want to export it, you can export the audio here, and then we have a variety of different options. So we have other uncompressed, we have MP3, OGG, FLAC, Opus. You can see a variety of different types of files that you want. So most people are going to want the your output as an MP3 most likely, and then double check those standard requirements. Remember, 192 kilobit or higher constant bit rate. So let's do this one here, and you do need to make sure that you're looking at a constant bit rate versus a variable or things like that. So there you go. Now hit your constant, and now we want to select our size. So 192 kilobit, 44.1 hertz, constant bit rate. This is how you're going to want to export it. All right, so now, did that export it already? In theory, it exported. Let's see, where in the world did it export to? Okay, it exported into documents. Let's go ahead and have a look over at our documents folder. See if it's in there. There it is. Found it. So it's right here. All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and... All right, now, one of the things I noticed is the older versions of Audacity give you options for the metadata on the save. You'll see that you have the option for metadata right here. I'm going to highly recommend you don't bother with metadata on Audacity itself. It does not do a good job of metadata. What I would recommend is looking at different applications. There are a number of different things. Here on Linux, I personally use Kid 3. I like Kid 3 because it just covers absolutely everything. So let's go into our documents, and this is our file here. So let me maximize this guy here. Now, I think I have a whole tutorial on this, but here you can type in your title, your artist, your album, all this information. And you believe you should be able to add extra stuff as well. Yeah, hit add, and then you can select what type of stuff that you are adding into it from a variety of different tags. And then if you want to do things like tag 1 as well. So here's a test file from artist, switch to Linux, album, testing, 1, 2, 3, and if you want to now go ahead and add this to any other tags, I can just click over here, expand this one here, and hit copy from tag 2. So you can just do one type of tag and then just copy it into whatever directions I want it to be. Depending on what your media players are, you might want to do tag 1s, tag 2s. I know some of the devices that I have still use tag 1. So I just make sure everything I do tag 2 best, and then I just copy that up to tag 1. So that's what I recommend rather than using Audacity for tagging such. I just use Kid 3 for any audio tagging. I don't mess with it inside of Audacity itself. So there's our brief look at Audacity, the new version. A couple things I'm liking about the new version, a couple things I'm not liking about the new version. But hey, there it is. And so overall, it is a very good system. Works out well. And in all honesty, it is one of the best, still one of the best audio manipulation applications that there is. So I have no qualms about using it myself. I use it for my audiobooks and podcasts and things like that. With that, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.